There are 15 crops you can grow for absolutely free from the scraps already in your kitchen that almost nobody is growing, and by the end of this video you will never look at your rubbish bin the same way again. The thing at number 1 turns a single item from the grocery shelf into an entire year's supply for a family, permanently, and it costs you nothing but the waiting. Your weekly shop is already stocking your garden. The seeds, the roots, the cuttings, and the sprouting bits you throw away every week contain hundreds of dollars of food, and the only reason they end up in the bin is that nobody ever told you what they were. My name is Malcolm Ashby, and I have been growing things for 50 years. I learnt most of this from my mother, who came through years when nothing was thrown away because nothing could be, and from an old allotment friend called Bert, whose entire plot, and it was a magnificent plot, had begun with things other people had discarded. Not one seed packet in the first 3 years, he told me once, and I have never forgotten it. Tonight we go from the quickest results to the biggest, and I will tell you honestly which ones are genuinely worth doing and which are simply good fun. Let me say one thing, and then I will not bring it up again. Every plant I know, its look-alike, and what it is worth in dollars, I have put into one book. On page 31 there is a weed that grows in most backyards, that people spray on site, and that replaces the $5 tea they have been buying for years. It is at thebackyardgoldmine.com, and the link is under this video. If you want it, it is there. That is all. Number 15. Pineapple tops. And we start with the one that is mostly for the pleasure of it, because I promised you honesty. Cut the leafy crown off a fresh pineapple, leaving an inch of fruit attached. Trim off the lowest few leaves to expose the little stub of stem. Let it dry for a day so the cut seals. Then either stand it in water or plant it in free-draining compost. Roots come within weeks. What you get is a genuinely handsome houseplant with sword-shaped leaves in a rosette, and after 18 months to 2 years, if you have treated it well and kept it warm, a flower spike rises from the center and a small pineapple grows on top of it. Will it feed you? Not meaningfully. Is it one of the most satisfying things you can do with kitchen waste? And will every visitor to your house ask about it? Yes and yes. Number 14. Celery bases. The white stub you cut off the bottom of a head of celery and throw away will regrow. Stand it in an inch of water in a shallow dish, cut side up, on a windowsill, and within days pale new leaves push up from the center. After a week or 2, plant it in soil with the top just above the surface, and it carries on. You will not get a whole new head of supermarket celery from it, and anyone who tells you otherwise has not tried it. But you do get a steady supply of celery leaf, which is a real ingredient, excellent in soups and stocks and salads, and which shops barely sell. Lettuce bases and bok choy bases do exactly the same thing. Number 13. Ginger and turmeric. That knobbly piece of ginger in the back of the drawer with little green buds swelling on it is not past its best. It is ready to plant. Choose a plump piece with visible buds, break it into sections with at least 1 bud each, and plant them shallow, an inch or 2 down, in rich compost in a wide pot in spring. Keep warm and watered, give them a long season, and they grow tall, handsome leaves. 8 or 9 months later, tip out the pot, and you will find a cluster many times the size of what you planted. Keep some to replant, and you never buy it again. Turmeric goes exactly the same way, and is even more worth it, because fresh turmeric is a different substance entirely from the dusty powder. Number 12. Fresh herbs from the supermarket bunch, which is the best value trick in this whole video. That bundle of basil, mint, oregano, or rosemary is not a bag of dead leaves, it is a bundle of cuttings. Take a young stem about 4 inches long, strip the leaves off the bottom half to expose the nodes, those little bumps where leaves join, and put the bare end in a glass of water or straight into moist compost. Within a week or so, white roots appear from the nodes. Pot it up and you have a permanent plant. Mint and basil are the most eager, rosemary the slowest and worth the wait. And once you have one plant, you have infinite plants, because every future trim is another cutting. Most of the herb collections I have ever seen on a windowsill began with a $2 supermarket bunch. Number 11. Green onions and scallions, the famous jam jar trick. And it does work, with one improvement. Keep the white bases with the roots on, stand them in an inch of water on the sill, and the green tops regrow within days. You can cut 3 or 4 times before the plant exhausts itself. Here is the step almost everybody misses. Instead of binning them at that point, plant those water-rooted bases in soil and let them recover and grow on properly. They will build into full plants and eventually flower and set seed, and those seed heads carry dozens of tiny black seeds. Let them scatter or collect them, and you have self-perpetuating spring onions coming up around the garden year after year from one bunch you bought once. Number 10. Tomato suckers, the freest plants on earth if you know where to look. Every tomato plant produces suckers, the little shoots that appear in the joint between the main stem and a branch, and most growers pinch them off and drop them on the ground because they compete with the fruit. Every one of those discarded shoots will become a full fruiting plant. Take one about 4 inches long, push it into moist soil or stand it in water for a week, and that is the entire procedure. No rooting powder, no propagator. If you do it early enough in the season, a plant from a sucker will fruit as well as one grown from seed months earlier. And you do not even need a tomato plant of your own. Ask anyone who has one. They are removing these anyway, and they will be delighted. Number 9. Dried beans, lentils and peas from the cupboard, which is the point in this video where people usually sit up. A bag of dried beans is not an ingredient, it is a packet of seeds, because the bean is the seed, and the same is true of chickpeas, lentils and split peas, as long as they are whole rather than split. What the seed companies sell you in a paper envelope for a few dollars is, in many cases, the identical thing sitting in your cupboard in a $2 bag containing several hundred of them. 2 pieces of advice. Soak them overnight before sowing, because they have been dried hard for storage and need the extra help, and sow more than you think you need, because you have no idea how long they sat on the shelf, and germination will not be perfect. 1 pinto bean gives you a plant with dozens of pods and many beans in each. Now, a quick word before we go on. Most of the people watching this channel are not subscribed. If you enjoy finding out what old and ordinary things are really worth, press subscribe. It costs you nothing, and you can always change your mind later. Right then, the top 8 where the free crops start feeding you seriously. Number 8. Pumpkin and winter squash seeds, straight from the fruit. When you scoop out the slimy middle of a butternut, an acorn squash or a Halloween pumpkin, you are holding next year's crop. Clean the seeds of pulp, dry them on a plate for a few days, store them somewhere cool, and sow when the weather warms. 1 plant will give you 3 to 8 large fruits, each of which contains hundreds more seeds. There is one honest caveat. Some supermarket squashes are hybrids, and hybrid seed does not always come true, so what you grow may be a little different from its parent. In my experience, it is very often perfectly good, sometimes better, and occasionally an interesting surprise. Squash also stores for months without any processing at all, in a cool room, which makes it one of the most useful free crops here. Number 7. Wild carrot seed. And this is the one that takes you outside the kitchen for a moment. Those flat white umbrella-shaped flower heads on tall stems along roadsides and field edges in late summer are often wild carrot, the ancestor of the garden carrot, and when the heads dry and curl brown, they are full of seed. Rub the dried heads between your palms over a bowl and you have a season's worth. Now, the necessary caution, and I want you to take it seriously, because the carrot family contains several plants that are extremely poisonous, hemlock among them, and they carry similar white umbrella flowers. Do not gather from anything with purple blotching on a smooth stem, and if you are not completely certain of your identification, do not gather at all. The safer route, and the one I actually recommend, is simply to let 2 or 3 of your own garden carrots stay in the ground into a second year. They will flower and set seed themselves, and you will find volunteer carrots coming up for years afterward. Number 6. Sprouted onions and shallots. That onion in the bottom of the vegetable rack that has gone soft and pushed a green shoot out of the top is not spoiled. It is doing exactly what an onion is supposed to do, which is get on with reproducing. Plant it in soil with the green shoot above the surface. The old bulb feeds the new growth, and around it, over 3 or 4 months, a cluster of new bulbs forms. One sprouted onion typically gives you 4 to 8 new ones. Shallots do the same, and often produce more. It works with yellow, white, red and sweet varieties alike, and it is the single most direct example of turning something you were about to bin into more food than you started with. Number 5. Potatoes and sweet potatoes, which are 2 different methods and both worth having. The regular potato is the simpler. That sprouted spud in the pantry is ready to go, and each eye can become a plant, so cut it into pieces with at least 1 sprout each. Let the cut faces dry for a day so they seal, and plant 4 inches deep. Each piece can yield 5 to 10 new potatoes. Sweet potatoes work differently and produce far more plants. Suspend one in water with toothpicks, or lay it in damp compost, and within weeks it sends up shoots called slips. When a slip is 4 to 6 inches long, twist it off, root it in water, and plant it out. 1 sweet potato gives you 10 to 20 slips, and each slip becomes a sprawling vine, yielding 3 to 8 tubers. There is a bonus most people never hear about, which is that sweet potato leaves are an excellent green, cooked like spinach, so you eat from the plant all summer and dig the tubers in autumn. Number 4. Avocado stones, the famous one with the toothpicks, and I am including it with a piece of honesty attached. Suspend the stone broad end down in water or plant it half buried in compost, and it will crack, root and grow into a genuinely beautiful glossy tree. Enjoy it, because it will be years before it fruits, and there is a real chance it never will without grafting. Now the reason it is at number 4 rather than number 15, if you live somewhere warm enough and you are willing to learn to graft a bud from a fruiting tree onto your seedling, which is a straightforward skill, and there are people at every gardening club who can show you, then a free stone becomes a fruiting tree worth many hundreds of dollars, and avocados are not cheap. Free rootstock is the real prize here, not the pip on the windowsill. Number 3. Lemons, oranges, and other citrus from pips, with the same principle and even better odds. Take the pips from a lemon, wash them and sow them fresh while they are still moist, because dried citrus pips lose viability fast. They germinate readily, and a citrus seedling is a lovely thing, glossy and aromatic. Grown on its own roots, it takes many years to fruit, and the fruit may not match the parent. But again, that seedling is free rootstock, and citrus is grafted commercially precisely because that is how the trade works. A grafted tree in a pot costs a great deal. Yours cost you a lemon you were going to eat anyway. Number 2. Garlic. And here is where the arithmetic starts to become genuinely remarkable. Walk into any grocer, buy 1 bulb of garlic, and you have just bought 8 to 12 plants, because every clove in that bulb will grow into a full plant producing a full bulb of its own. Separate the cloves, plant them pointed end up 2 inches deep in autumn, and wait. That is all there is to it. Now follow the multiplication. Plant 1 clove, harvest a bulb of 10 cloves, plant those 10, harvest 10 bulbs, 100 cloves. Inside 2 seasons, 1 grocery store bulb has become more garlic than most families use in a year, and every subsequent year is free forever. Choose a bulb that is firm and, if you can, locally grown rather than one treated to stop it sprouting, and the homegrown result will have a complexity the imported stuff simply does not. Number 1. The seed, and I have saved the simplest idea for last because it is the one that changes everything. Every fruit and vegetable you bring into the house is a seed catalogue that you have already paid for. Tomatoes, peppers, chilies, squash, melons, beans, peas, cucumbers, every single one arrives full of the means to grow itself again, and we scrape them into the bin without a thought. For tomatoes, squeeze the seeds with their jelly into a jar of water. Leave it 3 or 4 days until it goes cloudy and a little unpleasant, which is fermentation removing the coating that stops them germinating. Then rinse through a sieve and dry on a plate. Peppers and chilies are simpler still. Just dry the seeds from a ripe fruit. Beans and peas, let a few pods dry on the plant and shell them out. Do that once, and here is the thing that makes it number 1. You have stepped out of the buying cycle altogether. You are no longer a customer of the seed trade. You are a keeper of your own seed, which is what every gardener in human history was until about a century ago, and what my mother's generation simply called gardening. Save seed from the plants that did best in your own garden, and year on year they adapt to your soil and your weather and become better suited to your patch than anything you could buy. That is the whole thing. Not a hack, not a trick. A garden that renews itself and asks you for nothing. So look at what we have covered. A pineapple on the windowsill, celery leaf from a stub, ginger multiplying in a pot, permanent herbs from a supermarket bunch, endless spring onions from a jam jar, free tomato plants from other people's prunings, a cupboard full of bean seed you already own, squash from the Halloween pumpkin, onions that multiply themselves, 20 sweet potato plants from one tuber, free citrus rootstock from a lemon, a year of garlic from a single bulb, and a seed supply that never ends. Not one of those needed a catalogue, a credit card, or a trip anywhere. Whatever you do, don't scrape another plate into the bin without looking at what is on it first. If tonight changed how you see your kitchen, press like before you go. It truly tells me to keep making these, and subscribe if you have not, because next time we are going indoors properly, 17 plants that thrive in nothing but a glass of water, no soil, no mess, no repotting, including one I neglected shamefully for 6 weeks and which responded by growing 2 new leaves. Then tell me down in the comments, what is the first scrap you are going to plant, and has anyone got a pineapple on the go? I read every single one. Go and have a proper look in that garden. You never know. See you next time.